Welcome back to Artificial Antics, where Rico and Mike will talk about the implications and opportunities around artificial intelligence, machine learning, and deep learning. For this episode, Swimming in Data, how Ravi Kurani transformed pool maintenance with AI, Rico and Mike are joined by Ravi Kurani, founder of Sutro, to share how he revolutionized pool care with cutting-edge AI. From his roots as a pool boy to developing an AI-powered pool sensor, Ravi takes us through his fascinating journey and offers insights into the intersection of water technology and artificial intelligence.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another exciting episode of Artificial Antics, and we are here with Ravi Kurani, and he's from a company called Sutro. He's also a podcast host of Liquid Asset. You want to say a quick hi, Mike, and then we'll pass it over to Ravi?
Hey, Rico, thanks for that. And Ravi, thanks for being on the show with us. We've, since we talked to you last time, I don't know, it was probably about a month and a half ago, we've been excited to have you on. I think that your AI journey is super interesting, right? How you bridged engineering and, really water and swimming pool maintenance, right, into, what you're doing now in your business here. So looking forward to hearing your story. And if you want to just introduce yourself and take it away.
Yeah, for sure. So thank you guys for having me on, by the way. My name is Ravi Kurani, and I'm the founder of Sutro. A little bit about the backstory. Yeah, let me go ahead and kind of kick into that. So I grew up a pool boy in Southern California. My dad used to have a chain of pool and spa supply stores, and so I worked in the family business, right? I've done everything from acid washes to driving around a pickup truck to I ran one of my dad's stores in Huntington Beach. And yeah, I grew up a pool boy. Yeah. And through that experience, I ended up getting a degree in mechanical engineering, worked a really short stint at NASA Ames, doing a project on jet engines to make them more efficient. Got an MBA, got sent to India, which is kind of where the other half of the story ends up merging with the pool boy side. So while we were in India, I was an associate at a venture capital fund. The venture capital fund's thesis was funding entrepreneurs who built products for people who earned less than $2 a day, right? So back then it was called the bottom of the pyramid. And so we were funding technologies like solar electrification, right? We would go into the villages of India and figure out how to best light the villages so that the women in the village are able to study at night, right? That was kind of a big problem. We were trying to solve that. We were trying to solve things around poverty alleviation. We invested in a company that got old Motorola flip phones and built a little text messaging bot that we would give to rural farmers so they could basically better see what weather patterns were, right? Otherwise, we wouldn't kind of have access to that information. Where the story kind of intersects is we saw a lot of deal flow around water, and predominantly around water filtration or fixing the water, because India has a large water problem. And what kind of hit me while I was in India and seeing these deals come through is that nobody was really looking at the white space of water sensing, right? Everybody was like, hey, we have this Jack or Jane of all trades of how we're going to fix the water. We have these amazing Brita filters or whatever filter they had. But it's like, water is different for each application you use it, right? Your swimming pool that has a high chlorine content is not good for you to drink. Your drinking water probably isn't the best to grow your plants because you need some minerals and fertilizers inside there. So that example just shows how water is different, and you need a device to basically tell you what the quality, what the parameters of the water are. So we set out to basically build the world's first affordable water sensor, because if we know what is wrong with the water, what the parameters of the water are, we can then better fix them. Tried selling it to the Indian government. Stupidest idea a startup can have, especially for a young founder that doesn't know what the heck he's doing. Right. And so ended up flipping the model around and came back full circle to my pool boy days. Moved back to San Francisco, and I was like, hey, let's go ahead and sell the water sensor, because I used to do water tests in the pool store, right? You have that little test kit, you do the drops.
Right.
That's what I was doing. And so what we did was I just shrunk me as a pool boy into a robot and automated me, 1,000 times over. And that was kind of the vision. Let's sell the pool monitor to a clientele that's more wealthier. We can take the skim or the margin off of the more wealthier product and then reinvest it into the drinking water and agricultural stuff later. And so that was kind of the model. We set out to build the product, filed a bunch of patents. I ended up selling the company in 2019 to a large water sanitation company out of Canada, and have been running day-to-day operations since. So that's kind of what brings us to today. There's a lot of nuance in there, but I'll kind of pause there.
Sure.
Yeah.
And at what point did you decide that like AI was the way to kind of like put it into your product? Like how did that become part of the management of the device itself?
I'm kind of pissed off because I bought the domain sutro.ai back in 2015 before AI was even cool.
Yeah.
Right.
Because we were trying to sell this AI pool boy, right? That was kind of always my like vision when I first came back to California. And so since back then, what we did in the pool stores, we would write these things, or we'd obviously have like an Excel sheet or this calculator. And the whole vision of Sutro AI was how do we basically take all those calculations and in real time, not only calculate what you have, right? Not just build a pure software program, but begin to learn what's about to happen and what has happened. And so that was kind of always the initial vision of how we would build a quantitative AI tool using chemistry and numerical analytics of like what the pH is, what the alkalinity is. And yeah, that's kind of the first time that we actually, to answer your question, was when we started thinking about AI.
Wow.
Now when was that? Like, so like you said, you bought that AI domain back in, I think you said 2015. You're right, before AI was cool and it was just predictive analytics and everybody called it ML and not AI, right? And
Right.
And all that other good stuff. So was that around that time where you started to say, okay, well, we built some software, we can do this. Let's sort of move to that next level of that, like, let's predict the future, right? Was that around that same time?
It was around the same time, and then I think we very quickly learned that, again, we didn't have the data set that was needed to actually do that, right? We realized with a bunch of junior engineers that even at the machine learning, gate point or at the AI gate point, wherever we are, we just don't have enough data. We didn't have enough data even for like the numerical analysis standpoint. Like we don't have enough data to put into an Excel document to just run formulas on it. And so we kind of set out to that first vision of let's go ahead and get hundreds of millions of data points around water chemistry analysis, and then we'll sit down and figure out where, let's look at the tea leaves and figure out kind of what all these numbers say. And that's actually something that's happened as of recent. So probably about 2 years ago, we really started digging deeper and building vectors between the existing chemistry data that we have, comparing that against the weather information we have, alongside the actual device tolerances, right? Because the device itself also has its own tendencies, like the lights, one particular batch of LEDs will perform a particular way. And so what we're able to do is, based off of that output, we're not only able to like tune the device to see if it, works properly, the same way that your like iPhone LiDAR camera actually like readjusts itself based on the phone hardware, using software, but then also begin to actually build a product for the consumer to be able to predict what's going to happen with their pool.
Wow.
Yeah, that's awesome. And now here's a quick question. So are you building those data sets with your own live devices, where it's sort of building it back in and taking, like, let's say today's statistics, right, and turning that into a data set and continuously refining the model? Or pretty much is it when it's deployed in the pool, it just does its thing and it doesn't really, build on that data set?
It does the former. So it does actively keep providing and building on top of the data set. The beautiful part of the way that the architecture is set up is that the learning happens obviously in the cloud, right? It happens at where the large data set is, which is the culmination of all of the devices basically sending its data up to the cloud. Each device only needs to be fixed on its own corrective measure, right? Of like where it stands within the world of all the devices. But the product that we give to the user is the output of what happens in the cloud, right? And so in a certain sense, you just have a bunch of these agents that are like contributing to the larger brain hive. And then the brain hive gets smarter. It tells the agents like, hey, look, you're a little bit off. You need to correct yourself. It corrects itself, and then it basically throws it back into the cloud to give to the user just better chemistry information.
Yep.
That's great. That's what I figured you were going to say. Honestly, if you didn't say that, I would have been extremely surprised, right? So,
Disappointed.
So here, I was just talking about, you mentioned at scale, right? Like you've got to scale this. I'm sure this is deployed all over the place, right? Were there any challenges? Because that's one thing that I hear frequently. It's like anybody can do a little AI project and it's pretty straightforward. What were some of the challenges and how you were able to get past them during that, scaling that architecture out?
Yeah, the question you're asking is how do you sell, distribute, and manufacture tens of thousands of devices to generate millions, tens of millions of tests,
right?
And then store that and
right.
then actually build the model to then actually do what I just said.
Exactly.
Which is just a very age-old marketing problem, right? It's like the marketing is an age-old marketing problem. We have different tools today, right? You can sell on Facebook or on Google. We don't advertise in newspapers anymore. Although we did try that. We've tried like physical mail because, we know where pools are.
Yeah.
Right.
The manufacturing is a very, I wouldn't say it's a solved problem, but it's a problem that we've had again for the longest time. We've been manufacturing things from the days of the blacksmiths all the way to, the last 50 years of manufacturing electronics in China. Yeah. And so each, I say these things lightly, but each thing that I just says comes with its own infinite set of problems. That one, you have to figure out how to turn infinite into finite. And once you have the finite set of problems, you need to actually solve them. And then you need to make sure the product is robust. You have a customer support team that can actually support it. You can actually get a product from China to Los Angeles and then distribute it via USPS to show up at your door in 5 days. And you need the app to work. You can't have AWS crash. You can't have queuing issues, right? All of that stuff also needs to just work at its basal rate. And then we can figure out the AI. And so that's kind of, I guess, all the things that unlock the AI problem for us to now to be able to solve.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's all the architecture and infrastructure put in place that sort of builds. And I don't know if you said it or it just popped into my mind. It's almost like a pyramid, and AI is at the very top of that. There's a lot of foundational stuff, right? So, that absolutely makes sense. Do you want to tell us a little bit more from? Let's take that marketing side, that product side, and again, I'm asking sort of like a little bit for like a mini sales pitch for people that might be interested in this, right? Because I don't have a pool, but if I did, I think to myself, gosh, I don't want to build a workout routine or my grocery list, and I use AI to do some of these things. So, tell us a little bit more about that product side of the product and how people can get their hands on it and if they're interested.
Yeah, for sure. So I'll start there. If you want to get the product, it's basically a floating laboratory in your pool that has an app that tells you your pH, your free chlorine, your bromine, and your alkalinity 3 times a day, and tells you exactly what to do and when to do it. And if you double click into that, we actually have over 2,000 barcodes in our app. So you can scan the chemicals that you buy from Leslie's, Home Depot, Lowe's, wherever you buy your chemicals, Amazon. And as you scan those chemicals in, it'll tell you exactly with a cute little image of exactly what to put in and when, because that's kind of the most complicated part of running pool water chemistry. Double clicking into the product, and that's kind of that's like the headline of how it works. A little bit on the technology, which is interesting to folks out there, is we take exactly what you do in a water test. If you go to like a pool store and you get a test strip or you get a little liquid test strip and you put the little drops inside there, we do the exact same thing. We've just shrunk it down to 1/50th the size. And so like imagine, somebody at a pool store or a little scientist, like a laboratory guy doing these tests. We've literally just taken them and shrunk it down. And so that means that those little chemicals that you drop inside there that changes the water's color, we send you a cartridge that has those exact same chemicals to your doorstep once a month. That's the replenishable. And we do the exact same process that you as a user do, right? We dose 1/50th of a drop of water into a small little pool of water that you can't even see that happens in the device. And we use basically an LED and a photodiode array to measure what the absorption and the color is of that, the same way that your human eye does, actually. Take that information, we calculate it in a big array, and then we give you a pH value at the other side. So that's kind of how the technology works. It is a precision piece of robotics. We have 5 patents on it. And we're the only autonomous device out there that uses what's called liquid colorimetry, or liquid reagents, liquid assays, to be able to actually measure your water chemistry. The product itself comes with a little floating thing that's about the size of my arm. The thing actually connects to to like a hub unit. And for all the nerds out there and the geeks that are interested in this, we use a 915 megahertz, which is a frequency that's able to move through concrete, rebar, and water, because Wi-Fi and Bluetooth is not really the best set to actually transfer information. That hub connects to your Wi-Fi, and then that's how we get all the information into the app. So that's kind of how the architecture is built.
Awesome. Yeah, that's pretty exciting. I mean, it's one of those things where I knew that I would be interested in it, and I'm sure the listeners are interested in how that works. So thanks for kind of walking through the app and like what it does. I said there's got to be an app, right, that you have with this thing. And, this sort of reminds me, Rico, when we had Tim Shakur on, he mentioned, doing his own pool maintenance with ChatGPT. This would be even easier. We need to let him know about this. Hey, let's just drop this in your pool. He's super into AI, so he'd be super into this. So let's jump a little forward to, let's call it modern AI. The modern, or how about this? Let's call it conversational LLMs. Stuff that's happened in the past, year or so. I'm obviously you've got a product that doesn't work in that way. You're right. It works in kind of a different way with like higher level AI, ML. Over the past, let's say, year and a half, what are some of the trends that you've seen that you might use in your daily life, or even, let's say, you're still working at the company, right? So what kind of, challenges and opportunities are you seeing with AI adoption, let's say at the internal level, right, where you all are using it to gain efficiencies, as well as the external level where you're using it, at an external, like for customer experience, let's say?
Yeah. We do use LLMs pretty regularly and prevalently throughout the organization. Let me just kind of walk you through a few of those. So like outside of the like quantitative AI and the quantitative ML that we do on the device side, let's start from the viewpoint of the consumer, right? When the consumer interacts with our device, even before that, before they're actually looking to buy it, we use AI and LLMs in our marketing. So the kind of two places that we actively use them is one in Klaviyo. So we kind of backfill Klaviyo, which is an email marketing software, to be able to sell email marketing, or sell our product through email marketing copy that's a lot more better tuned for the actual demographic that we want. And so we use a combination of segment.io plus an LLM tool that we've kind of hacked together to make this email drip campaign. Another place that we use it is obviously in ad copy, and just running kind of a multitude of images and copy kind of back to back, so we can make sure to see what's working, what's not. That's like on the marketing side. If we move over to the customer support side, we have an AI bot, or an LLM bot on the website. So if you're on a particular page, if you're looking at our FAQ, if you've been sitting for a while on the technology page, we'll kind of drive comments or conversations. It's like, hey, Mike, looks like you're looking at this microfluidic chip. Like, do you have any questions? This is how the technology works, right? Or looks like you're interested in the subscriptions. We have 2 subscription plans. This is what we have, and this is what we have. What do you think is good for you, right? Like, we'll kind of nudge you on a particular time because you might have a question there. If that doesn't work, we'll obviously escalate to a customer support agent, where it then sends a ticket in. Once it's sent a ticket to our customer support agent, we also use LLMs within Zendesk. Okay. So we were piloting this program called Codif, and Codif basically takes the world of Sutro tickets that we've had, right? The thousands of tickets that we've gone through, and it will not only pull from the internal FAQ to help a customer support agent better answer your question, but it'll pull from the plethora of tickets that we've actually answered to say, hey, customer support agent, Mike and Rico 2 months ago had these similar questions that Jack is asking today. Take a look at these tickets if you want, and if not, here's a response that we put together. Please edit it before you send it out. Don't just hit the send button. But here's a little nugget for you to actually make your job easier. We use it, so that's on the customer support side. When we move into engineering, we definitely use it on the project management side. So if we need to do summaries of Jira. We obviously at the end of the week we'll kind of have it go through our Jira board to figure out exactly what tickets have been completed, what are red flags, what are green flags, what are wins, what are losses. We use it in Slack. We use the Slack AI to help summarize channels. We also, our software development team is starting to get into using like Replit and Cursor. And we use ChatGPT regularly to like help us fill out code. We're using ChatGPT to build a QA/QC bot that's able to like help us run through a sequence of QA/QC checklists within an app launch to make sure that we're running QC a little bit more efficiently and a little bit more thoroughly. That's it on the customer, or that's it on the software side, which leads us to the device side, which is where we get into the quantitative AI.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like, that's like the laundry list of places. I'm sure I'm forgetting a whole bunch of other stuff.
Yeah,
That's
there's
like
got to be, there's probably a lot more, but I think that really covers, full circle, right? Like the different pieces and how you're using it. And I'm really glad to hear it. I myself, especially on the engineering side with Cursor, Replit, like some of these new tools, like it's extremely good. And we have something I call App Wednesdays, where we'll just build something small and usable. Like we'll take this like backlog thing that's been sitting around forever, and it's like, oh, we need a UI around this. And it's like, instead of saying, yeah, we'll just, we'll schedule that sometime next year. It's literal. I'll take the stakeholders and we'll like talk about it, build it together. And we've had it be as fast as 7 minutes and as long as 2 hours, right? And they have something usable, right? Where they can automate that quick thing, right? And so yeah, that's really exciting stuff. Glad to hear that you're still finding uses, right? It's not just built into your core product and all right, that's cool. You're actually moving forward with and all the stuff that you're talking about makes perfect sense, right? Those workflows and we're using Zoho, but we Zia and whatnot. Like there's some different. It's similar technology, right? So it makes a lot of sense. So, I know that we have a little bit of a time limit on this one, which is great. We wanted to try out a shorter episode anyway. Ravi, is there anything that you wanted to share? Like, let's say tips for business owners, right? That are looking to like maybe adopt AI. They know there's an opportunity there, but they have worries and whatnot. Where would you suggest those business owners start in their companies with AI adoption and opportunity?
I would recommend that it starts with a need and figure out what the need is and what the process is, right? AI is really good at like doing the same thing over and over again for like the noobs out there, right? I think AI can do a lot of complicated things, but if you're just getting into it and you need to get your feet wet, figure out a need, figure out a process, figure out what the steps in that process are, and then go ahead and figure out how AI can automate it. And many times it comes, like you just said, with processes that are sitting in the backlog that have just really been draining on the organization. And when you unlock things like that, it gives a breath of fresh air to everybody, because everybody can kind of look up and like focus on something else. And so that would kind of be my recommendation.
Awesome. That's good. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, so early adoption of AI within the staff, let's say within the past couple of years, as it's starting to progress, was it easy to get people to adopt that hadn't had experience with it, say in the software development?
I would say it's a mixed bag. The media always paints things very negatively, right? It kind of is like, oh, AI is going to take our jobs. And like, right. I feel like people may have a handful of reasons to like not use it, right? They're just like, oh, my privacy, or what if I put an email inside there? Is it gonna, publish it on Google and then people can search it? Like, there's obviously these fears is one. The second it is a little bit of an unknown, right? And you're like any sort of tech adoption curve, you're gonna have your early evangelists, you're gonna have your main users, and then your laggards. And so I think that's true for anything. It's up to the business and management to figure out how to use it, right? Just like any founder or CEO, if you're not jumping in and learning that process from the beginning and you don't know how it works yourself, then there's no way that you're going to convince your organization if you yourself don't. You can't just be like, hey, use AI. Like,
right.
Use what? Like, what do you want me to do? And so I think like being fluent in it yourself, as any founder should, right? Like I feel like I've done every single job in my organization outside of the ones I'm technically not able to do. But like you have to know what you're working on, and if you don't, then you're not walking the walk and talking the talk.
Right.
Yeah, that's been one of the things I'm kind of grateful for at Clarity. Our CEO is one of the biggest evangelists for it, and not just use AI, but to your point, right? I always say start with a problem, right? You never start with AI, you start with the problem, right? Yeah. And then, like you said, then figure out the process. So every time anybody's ever walked into my office and says, "Hey, I need to do this thing. I think AI can do it," I say, "Okay. First things first, I've got 2 whiteboard walls here. Let's start drawing out your process and let's figure out what that is," right? Because, one of our friends of the show, Wendy, she says, you got to get your house in order first, right? You have to understand how to do something efficiently before you want to automate it with AI and make it faster, right? Because it's you may be more efficient, but you're not gonna be effective, right? You need it to be effective at the end. So entirely. No, that is great stuff. Rico, do you have any other questions for Ravi?
I was just going to say, Ravi, if you want to plug your podcast real quick, I've listened to a couple episodes, and a lot of people don't know this, but my daytime job, I actually work with financing water treatment plants. It's part of what I do. So I have a little bit of interest in water and drinking water, and I understand, how important it is. So I really respect the fact that, one, you educate people on there, and I've listened to a couple of the guests you've had on there. You have some very intelligent folks on there. You're a very intelligent person yourself. So I will give you an opportunity if you want to plug your podcast real quick.
Yeah, for sure. I have a podcast called Liquid Assets, which is a podcast on the technology, management, and business of water. We noticed that I listened to a bunch of tech podcasts, right? Like the All In podcast and WNYC, and there was none of that in the water industry. And like even for somebody that works in water, I wasn't able to find anything that would just be engaging to listen to. And so I just wanted to create it myself. And so we created Liquid Assets. You can find it at liquidassets.cc. You can subscribe on there. We're also on Spotify, on YouTube, anywhere you get your podcast from. You can listen to us.
Yep. And then we'll put it in the show notes too, folks, so that you'll be able to find it. We'll definitely be plugging that for a bit. So, and we'll also add it to our newsletter as well.
Amazing. Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love the name Liquid Assets. That's fantastic. I haven't listened to it yet, and I need to. So I'm gonna check that out. Ravi, thanks for joining us on Artificial Antics. Appreciate your insights. I love the journey, the story, how things really come together. And I think that your suggestion and your tips for business owners are spot on. So with that, Rico, you want to take us out? Anything?
Sure. So, no, I just want to thank everybody for listening. Again, Ravi, thank you for your time. Hopefully we'll get you back maybe in a few months and get an update on where everything is at. And I'm going to continue listening to your podcast because I find it quite interesting. So thanks again.
Awesome. Thank you guys for having me.
Awesome. Thanks, Ravi. We'll talk to you later. Have a good one. See ya.
Thanks, everybody.
That's it for episode 18. Thanks for joining us. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and let us know your thoughts in the comments. Stay connected with us on Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn for all the latest updates. And check out antics.tv or our YouTube channel at Artificial Antics. We'll see you back in the lab soon. We want to give a huge shout out to Nick and the team at Nomad Studios for mastering the Artificial Antics podcasts. Want to level up your audio visual game? www.nomadstudios.pro.